Good afternoon on what is a warm, bright and sunny day. It is Thursday the 6th of May. I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea. And a small parcel to open. So let's get to it. And this is from Drive-Through, because I can tell because of the strength of the glue they use on the packaging. There we go. And this is courtesy of my friend Neve, who has let me do an unboxing of this, which is smaller than I imagined, but it's the Grindhouse double feature, feature with the Crimson King and the Isle of Damned. This is for Call of Cthulhu. That's on the back. And this is from the Drive-Through. This is from the Miskatonic repository on Drive-Through RPG, and this comes courtesy of Critical Hit Publishing, who do titles such as Highway of Blood, which I've done an unboxing of, The Carnival, and those are both in print, and they're kind of they're quite. They tend to be sort of like in the Grindhouse style of Grindhouse 70s style of cinema, kind of cheap exploitation, horror, but infused, of course, with the Cthulhu mythos. Up until including the more recent Viral, which is set more recently, and that's done. That's essentially a ghost crew go to an island that is essentially quarantined by the Italian government and discover things they shouldn't. So the Grindhouse, a grindhouse or action house is an American slang term for a theatre that mainly shows low-budget horror, splatter and exploitation films for adults. Okay, and it warns, these aren't your typical Call of Cthulhu scenarios where some classy, well-dressed investigator sips tea and pores over leather books in some wood-panelled library. So it's not the classic 1920s, the Jazz Age, as you would normally expect. You know, that's almost a cliched presentation of starting, you know, a Call of Cthulhu investigation. You go to the library and, you know, sipping tea and puffing away on the pipe, as it were. These are burning dumpsters of pure horror, where a fleeting private investigator limps through some filthy back alley on a busted ankle, while a hireling pack of mutants try to beat them to death with the limbs of their dead friends. In other words, these are not for the faint of heart, they're intended for mature audience only. Player discretion is advised. So that's blab on the back. And inside we have an explanation of what Grindhouse is, and you know, complete with a short filmography, and basically a list of movies that you might want to look at for inspiration. For example, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the obvious one. Hills Have Eyes. Coming up a bit more modern with Death Proof. But again, most of all these are really date between 1970 and 81. But essentially all kind of the exploitation splatter porn of the period. So it says, read this first. The purpose of these books is to provide keepers with interesting one-shots that can be completed in a single session. Each scenario starts with a unique location that can, with little or no modification, be inserted seamlessly into an existing campaign. These scenarios are modular, with a number of options and variants available, so that keepers can customise them to suit their needs. It's even possible to scavenge these scenarios for parts that can be added to the keeper's own settings, making their utility nearly limitless. Think of them as skeleton keys to countless doors. They are organised, so you've got an explanation of the organisation here, which is that they have 7 sections. So prelude, objectives, secrets, casts, signs, threats, and changes. And you've got a complete breakdown describing what they are. And we have a double warning, essentially, you know, essentially carrying on from the back, basically this advice: be careful of this. So then we get into the Crimson King. And this scenario can be set in any North American city in the early 1980s, so it does shift the kind of setting a bit further forward than your atypical exploitation movie, Grindhouse movie, and the character's been invited to an exclusive nightclub that features early goth music with industrial punk influences. Illicit drugs and overt sexuality are ubiquitous with the underground nightclubs of the time, and by all accounts, the Call to the Crimson King is no exception. So, really, these are sort of like, as I said, they're one-shots. They're designed for, essentially short sessions of play, and they carry a warning on each of the scenarios. So you've got guiding, so blood, gore, and drug use. So these are all for mature audiences. And we get into sort of got prelude and going into the entrance, and so really sort of the text you're reading out to the players there as their characters progress into the nightclub and the scenario itself, essentially we have the objectives, secrets, casts, and so on, all listed and broken down for easy access by the keeper as she runs through the game. So it's one of the things I would actually really like about this is objectives and secrets. It's upfront about that. I review a lot of titles from the Miskatonic repository. All too often with these, it is a case of you going, well, what's going on? When is the writer going to tell me what's going on? And I'm reading this basically as a prospective keeper, as because that's really how you need to think about it when you're writing a review. Essentially, if you've got a scenario going, okay, how am I going to run this? Are there going to be any problems with it? And one of the problems might be, well, you're not telling me what the scenario is about all too often until quite late in the book. So I go, oh, that's how this works. But objectives, secrets up front, so that the keeper has a good idea of what the scenario entails. So, with nice clean layouts, nice little booklet, but easy to read. And again, if you bought any of the titles from Critical Hit, you'll recognise the style. I certainly do, from sort of like having worked on these books and reviewed them. So we've got Call of the Crimson King, nice piece of illustration, sort of like period from the time, and sort of like a bit of sort of like iconography there and sign language for the signage, for the nightclub itself, plus nice clear floor plans for when you're at the Court of the Crimson King, and instead of the sort of like traditional Call of Cthulhu scenario, you've got basically kind of stripped down character sheets. They're nicely done, almost like they're done sort of like on a notebook style. They're not as easy to read on first glance as they could be, but nevertheless, you have 6 characters all ready to play there. And then we get into Isle of the Damned, which can give you body horror, needles, and dismemberment. So those are the themes there. And Isle of the Damned, this scenario is set from a small island off the coast of Maine in the summer of 1974. A group of friends have rented a small vacation house with the intent of spending a week fishing, drinking, and maybe smoking a little weed. Things begin to go sideways when they hear a noise from beneath the cabin that leads them to a hidden door. What lies beyond will change their lives forever. Which kind of reminiscent of a scenario which appeared for Call of Cthulhu in the core rulebook, or at least really through from first edition Call of Cthulhu through to third edition Call of Cthulhu, which is the Brockford House, again on the shores of Maine, or basically the shores of New England, and the restraint and the innuendo, what's the strange movements around, and it's sort of like the house travelling below. Doesn't know what's going on, hires the investigators to look into the matter, and of course they discover a trapdoor which leads to a series of caves below, and also an altar to deep ones, and the cave system leads out to the sea, and it's all a bit sort of like really kind of physical and gung-ho a little bit. It's not a particularly good scenario, But nevertheless, this is reminiscent of it, at least upon first glance. So we've got the prelude and essentially arriving at Ireland, and this is actually quite lengthy because the player characters and the investigators get to investigate, or essentially not so much investigate as explore where they're going to be staying. You know, if you're going to stay somewhere, you have a look round, get a feel for the place, get used to it. You know, you may only be staying there for a few days, but you know, it's going to be your home away from home. And this is sort of like a long way before you really get into the description of essentially what's going on. So you've got 2, 3, essentially 5 pages before you actually get to the objectives and secrets, and it explains what is going on. And it does look to be, well, it does involve the mythos, not what you're expecting, not deep ones, but at least not that I can see. I've just seen the name West, and that suggests a whole other influence and source of the antagonists in this scenario. And of course, when you have involvement with that, I mean, this could easily be adapted to be just, you know, a Walking Dead, a zombie scenario, but I think it's a bit more than that. And of course, when we actually have got pictures of the Bleak Island Lodge, where the player characters are staying, and then below that we have Dr. West's laboratory. So, you know, this is can I put it? This essentially is Herbert West reanimated on an island, if you will. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters, and they're presented in that similar fashion. So that is the Grindhouse double feature: the Crimson King and the Isle of the Damned. A couple of one-shot scenarios, although I suspect they could easily be adapted to add it to your campaign. I think potentially Isle of the Damned could be adapted to your campaign. Drop that straight into sort of like a Lovecraft Country campaign, or Lovecraft County campaign, without any difficulty. Bit of adjustment in terms of the characters you might be playing, but make allowances for that, and that would work. Whereas Crimson King has perhaps more traditional enemies in there, or foes in there, that make it a bit more difficult to use in a campaign where you are taking a fairly straight line upon what monsters or entities are available as far as the mythos is concerned. But yeah, nice couple of short scenarios. I think 1 session a piece. The Grindhouse Volume 1, I'm hoping at some point that Critical Hit will release more of these in print, perhaps even do a collected volume, because I think there are several volumes of this. I think that'd be a good idea. I think people would appreciate having sort of like a nice hardback of these nice little digest-sized booklet of these to sit alongside, obviously, their larger books, but even so, you know, a little book of one-shots would be really good. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you want to be alerted to, if you've got any feedback, appreciate you taking the time to press those. And of course, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a parcel and a book which I will unbox or chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.